Hello, my name is Brittany and I'm the Dorky Yarn Lady. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about markets. Okay, so I started doing markets last year in about the summertime of 2024. And I just wanted to go over kind of like information about markets, like how to look for them, the costs and things like that. But this is mostly geared towards crocheters that make clothing, because I've tried to find videos about this on YouTube and I haven't really been able to find anything geared towards clothing. It's mostly geared towards plushies and amigurumi, and that's great. It's just not my style. I prefer, for some reason, to crochet clothes, and that's what I've been doing for markets. And I have a market coming up and I've been market prepping, so I'm like, well, you know, I should maybe talk about it, at least have a video out there about crochet clothing stuff, I guess, for markets. I don't know. So how do you even go about finding markets? So last year I just went on Instagram and I typed in brain fog. I typed in because I live in Portland, Oregon markets on Instagram and on Facebook. And I found like few things here and there, and then once I started looking more and more, I would get like more ads, and then I was nervous, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna find a few places to like apply for. And I got into a few places, very thankful for that. The process for that is gonna vary. So there are some places where you just pay the booth fee and they'll let you in. Some places are you apply and say whether or not you've vended before, what kinds of things you sell, and they'll kind of vet you. And then some places, there might be wait lists or whatever. But for the most part, I've mostly come across like, you apply and then they review and they'll go look at your social media to see what kinds of things you make or whatever, and then whether or not you get accepted. So that's how I got started into looking for vending for markets. So how much does doing a market cost? Well, that's gonna vary. Booth fees are gonna vary from market to market and area to area. Like I said, I live in Portland, Oregon, so I've done free markets and I've done markets that were nearly $400, and that was because it was like over 4 days until like 2 different weekends. Anyways, so that cost is going to vary. Sizing is one thing that will change it. So like I've done very small markets that were free that did pretty well. I've done between $20 and like $60 markets, or $90 markets. That's a little bit on the higher end, and those are always a hit or miss. That's the sad part about all this. It's hit or miss, so you don't know how much you're gonna like make. But if you really want to do this, it can be a lot of fun. But I've also done higher end. I've paid nearly $400 for a market that didn't do too well. But there are like larger markets that you can do. But I would suggest starting off with smaller markets so you can get a little bit of your name out there, so people can see, oh, you're actually doing markets, see how successful you can be, because these larger markets will look at how well you're doing and things like that, if any of that makes sense. So booth fee, it varies. You'll have to go and look depending on your area, the size of the market, and all of that. There are indoor and outdoor markets in my area. I've done both with varying successes. So what are you gonna need if you do an outdoor market? What you're gonna need at the very least is a pop-up tent. I don't know how to explain it. If you've ever seen the markets where it's like the tent poles and like the pop-up on the top, I guess, at the very least, get one of those within size, like, regulations is not the right word, requirements, I guess, for the market, because I've been to markets where 10 by 10 seems to be the average size, like the one that most people do. So get a tent for that, plus tent weights, so because of the wind, And I would suggest to do walls. I haven't done that. I need to, because the wind and weather can really like disrupt your stuff. But there, like, I've gone to markets where it's like 6x6 or just a table without a tent, which is not fun to do in the summertime, I would not imagine. But anyways, so you would need a pop-up tent, you would need the weights, and then, so for clothing, I would highly suggest getting a cheap clothing rack with some hangers, because it's clothing. And that's the easiest way I've noticed to display clothing for selling at markets, is on a clothing rack. I have one mannequin that is like a torso and I will put like a top and a skirt on her that kind of match. People kind of like I've had one person buy right off the mannequin, but just like a mannequin with some clothing and then like your clothing rack. The way that I have my stuff set up is I have a table, because I have some stuff I sell on the table, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I have a clothing rack. You can have just clothing racks with a tiny little table where you sit at. That's a thing too. I'm actually thinking about doing that. I'm thinking about making enough stuff to have 2 clothing racks and just me, because I want to try to more focus on clothing than anything else. But with the ADHD, I can't just focus on one thing. So that's why my catchphrase, or whatever it's called, is where ADHD meets crocheting and crafting, because I just can't focus on just clothing sometimes. But anyways, so clothing racks, you're gonna need price tags. You can, or different ways to display prices. I've seen people on the end of like the clothing rack have paper and what it is that they sell and how much, unless which is great, unless if you have everything that's priced individually, then you'll just have like your clothing rack and get like little clothing tags. They have like those really cheap ones. You can just handwrite the size, what it's made from, price, and all that on the 2 sides. You can also buy the ones on Amazon or whatever that have like the name, the size, the price, or whatever. There's like a little bit fancier ones. Or I know of people that actually will buy tags on like Vistaprint, and like it'll be like a business tag kind of thing, a business card kind of style, but like have the information of like the business, their logo, the size and price and all that. But just starting out, like just white tags that you can find for like yard sales, that works just fine. That's what I'm currently doing until I can upgrade. I have something in my eye, I do apologize. But so price tags, price displays, if you have some sort of signage with pricing on it, that is great, because that will help. That helps people who want to just like look, get an idea of kind of like what your pricing is, and decide if they want to come in and shop or not. Which is like kind of crappy, because people are like, no, you shouldn't do that. You should let them like come into your booth. But it's like, I don't know. I've heard like different things from different people while doing vending stuff. People do different things. Like each person is different. So I don't have like a price thingy for my clothing, but I have like on my table, I have like little cards, like little tiny tents that have like tops $20 or bags $20 to $30 or whatever it is. I have that for my table. So that's the next thing I was going to talk about, is not only do you need clothing racks and hangers, but if you make more than just clothes, so like accessories, bags, scrunchies, hair stuff, you can have a small table. I have a 6-foot table, and that fits things pretty well, that I have scrunchies with a cute little display on it, and then like headbands or headscarves or whatever, bandanas, that's what the word I was looking for, bandanas. I've sold some men's ties, or just ties. I don't genderize it, and it's fine. And like keychains, and you can have like different displays for things like that if you want. I just brain farted. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so yeah, so trying to yes, trying to have different levels, different heights of things to make your booth look more interesting, or your table to look more interesting is very helpful. It's not necessary 100%, but if you're going to have a table, have a plain colored tablecloth. I started off with one with a bunch of colors, didn't do so well selling stuff on that because I was too busy with my colorful stuff. So I've gone and I now have a black tablecloth that's fitted to the table that looks so much nicer, and I do a little bit better with that, and it was like 10 bucks on Amazon. So it's 100% worth having like a table with a fitted tablecloth on it. So pricing. Okay, first, before I get into pricing, theme. Are you doing a specific market with a specific theme? I've done Valentine's Day markets and I've sold bags, and like I was having a rough time when I was at that market, but I made flowers and I sold out almost like completely over the weekend that I did that were both markets were Valentine's Day markets. I was well not prepared for both of those markets, but I ended up doing pretty okay. I don't want to talk about that right now, but like there are Mother's Day markets themed, like Mother's Day markets themed, like Mother's Day themed, like Father's Day themed, graduation, summer, like, is it themed? And does it have, like, is it during the summer or during the winter? That matters because you should stock up ahead of time for those markets. When I do summer markets during the winter, I'll start making, actually kind of towards the end of summer into winter, I'll start making a bunch of summer stuff to have for next year's summer market. So you have enough of an inventory to sell. And then like January, I'll try to make like flowers and like Valentine's Day things for Valentine's Day markets I'm going to be doing. And then like I try to plan at least a month, if not 2 in advance of certain markets. For seasonal, I would suggest at the end of the season, start making for the next season. And that sounds crazy. I don't always follow that, but it would be so much easier to start at the end of summer, make a whole bunch of summer items. So by the time your next summer comes around, then you have plenty of stock and you can just add a few things here and there. Winter markets, same thing. At the end, I tend to do it a month or 2 in advance. So my advice is to start it at the end of the previous one, but at least a month or 2 in advance. Try to start making stuff for that season because you really need to have stock. How much stock varies. It depends. So if it's just like a teeny tiny little market, you may not need like 50, 60, 100 things. But if it's a larger market, you're going to need hundreds. And so, for example, I make cropped tees. I don't have them all the same color. I have different sizing and I have different colors because you never know who's going to want what. So yeah. Okay, so pricing of items. How much do you price it for? That's hard to do. Even with trying to sell online, it's hard to do it because everybody's like, pay your worth. And I've sold things like I sell cropped tees for like $30 and people are like, you should be charging more. And I'm like, yeah, but people aren't buying it for $40, $50 for a cropped tee because of one, where I vend at, and 2, it's just harder to sell things at the more like higher prices, but also try to not sell your stuff at Walmart prices. It's hard. It really, really is. And you got to like play around with the numbers. I do better if my clothing is like priced at $30, $20 up, but people are less likely to buy a $40 or $50 crochet item. I have noticed, personal experience, everybody's different. It's harder to sell $40 to $60 items that are well worth it because people aren't going to these markets expecting to spend $40, $50, $60, $100. It's hard. It really sucks. I what I do is I do buy acrylic yarn, and I try to make things and sell those at like a little bit of a cheaper price range for people who really can't afford too much. And then I do have cotton yarns that I try to sell for a little bit more. And I don't sell wool items because a lot of people have allergies and some people are weird about that. So I try to avoid wool as much as I possibly can. So yeah, there's that. Now I kind of wanted to talk about things that I make and sell at markets at about price points. So for table stuff, when I do have tables, I try to keep my table stuff $20 or $30 and below. That gives most people the ability to buy what, you know, from your table, or from my table, I should say. It gives most people the ability to like, oh, hey, I can afford to help this small business if I'm spending $20 or less. The things that I sell on table, scrunchies, which velvet is the way to go. Sadly, I have like non-velvet scrunchies that just sit there and do nothing, but then sometimes scrunchies don't sell, so it's always difficult to know what to put on there. But velvet tends to do a lot better, like Juicy Couture. I have this cute little high-rise thingy, and nobody's wanting to buy when my scrunchies are on that for some reason. I'm like, I'm gonna upgrade, and like not doing as well as I was hoping. Is my lighting okay? I should have checked on that ahead of time, but whatever. Okay. Table stuff. Scrunchies, hair accessories. Those are great for everybody who loves to do things with their hair, not just adults, but kids too. During the summertime, I will sell bandanas. I have neckties. Bags, I notice if they're on the table, sell a lot better on the table than they do when they're hanging up on the clothing rack. And then during the summertime, I will have bikini tops. Because it's easier to see them on tabletop, like I said. On clothing racks, I have one it's kind of small, and I'm hoping to get another one, like I've been saying. Making sure my other button isn't being pressed. But anyways, on clothing racks, I make the Peekaboob top by PassioKnit Kelsie. I've sold a few. I thought I'd be selling more, and that's because people are like, I'm too old to be wearing stuff like that, or I could never with my body shape. And it's like, well, I've made it and worn it for myself, and it's super comfy and cute. But, you know, to each their own. So I'll have some of those. I bought the pattern to have in different sizes, and I can link that. I'll link that down in the description box below, along with her video tutorial. She makes it, I think, in a size smaller, like one size in her video tutorial, and then also has a paid pattern. So that's one thing I make. Another thing I make for summertime is crop tops, bralettes, they kind of look like bikini tops with like the whole band and everything, and straps. Oh, of course straps, but like a band and everything. So it's like a crop top / bralette kind of situation. Those don't sell as well because I make them kind of plain. If I were to add more to it, it would probably sell a little bit better. Cropped tees. That I've sold a few of those, and I've sold, I brain farted. I price those differently depending on the kind of yarn that I use and sizing sometimes, not always, mostly on like yarn. So on my acrylic, like cropped tees, if I use just plain like Red Heart Super Saver, I'll have it for $20, $30. I have Pride ones. Oh, that was the thing I didn't mention earlier, is if it's Pride theme, I have done a Pride market and I made everything Pride themed, and I barely sold anything, but that was because I was still like new, so it's probably not doing well because I was so nervous. But yeah, anyways, my Pride ones, because it's made with Pride yarn, is priced a little bit higher. So yeah, yarn definitely is a factor that I've tried. Like I've made cotton ones, and they don't sell as well because they have a higher price point. And then skirts, I've tried to sell. They don't do too well, but I'm going to try a different like pattern for the skirt because I have like this airy one that it's cute, but I'm going to try a different pattern to see how well that does. I'm going to try for, not this year because it's too late. It's May 21st. It's a little too late to try to make too many more summer items. But shorts is one that I'm going to be trying for next year. And for next year, I'm also going to be trying for pants. I have made one pair of pants. It's on my Instagram that are like mesh style. They're so cute. I just really haven't had the capacity to be able to make more pants. Like mental capacity, because I've had so much going on. Anyways, winter. So I have a few cardigans that I have made. I plan on making more eventually. They are harder to sell, but don't try to sell, like lug them around with you during the summertime because they just don't sell. The hexagon cardigans are easier to make. So I would suggest kind of like sticking with that if you want to, or just regular cardigans. I've made skull cardigans that kind of just sit there and don't sell. Even during Halloween time, they just don't sell. So cardigans are always a hit or a miss. So I keep on saying so quite a bit. And dresses. I've tried and was not really successful with dresses, but I'm planning on trying to do more dresses in the future. I have a lot, like I have a list of, hey, these are the things I would like to try to make kind of stuff, and that's just on the list. So, all right, Christmas markets. That's when my ADHD really kicks in and I want to be like, I want to try to have like stocking stuffers. What can I make? Mostly for like gifts or stocking stuffers. I have made like little octopuses or octopi or whatever you're called. I've crocheted them. They're little. I try to sell them for 10, but most of the time they sell for 5. I've done hedgehogs, stuffed animals. I'm not great at, but those octopuses I could do pretty well. And they sell a lot better for the stocking stuffers. Scrunchies for some reason don't sell as well as I thought they would. Keychains, jewelry, like necklaces or earrings, things like that. It's a hit or miss, and it really sucks because it's like that's when I can use up the scrap ends of my clothing and be good. Yeah. So, okay. I'm starting to ramble. So I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap up this video. I probably have missed some information, so if I have, ask any questions down below. I might make another one if I remember, hey, I should have said this kind of thing. My overall message is I enjoy doing markets. It's stressful. It can be quite stressful, especially since I don't make the things people normally make. I forgot to mention, for making things, if you have a specific style to you, like people that are earthy into like more mushrooms and things like that, they have the whole thing themed like that. That's great. I can't seem to do that. I'm just more like, hey, I'm bright colors. Not everybody's into bright, I'm into bright colors. So I'm going to try to do more like solid color things and things like that. But if that is more your style, that should be your booth. My style, bright colors. I should wear more bright colors when I'm vending. Maybe I'll get more people to pay attention. I don't know. You also have to be friendly, but not pushy, because some people are like, hey, come into my booth, but that would make me not want to. If a person's walking by, they're not going to stop. I'll be like, hi, and that's it, because I'm not going to be able to get them to come into my booth. That's just sadly the truth about it. So if somebody comes and approaches me, I could be like, hi, how are you? Try to start a small conversation, like talk about your stuff a little bit if they seem interested. Some people ask questions like, oh, how long have you crocheted for? Or whatever. Or like, is this crochet? Did you make all of this kind of questions? People will ask those kind of questions. People also say, oh, my granddaughter or my daughter or my aunt or my somebody else crochets. I've had someone, my brother or cousin or whatever, crochets too. And I'm like, that is so cool. I love having those kind of conversations with people like, oh, you know, somebody who crochets, what kinds of things do they make? I like to have small talk like that while they're browsing. I've had some weird people, like someone held up something. It's like, oh, my granddaughter's so amazing. We can show her a picture or something. She can make it. And her stuff is absolutely stunning. I'm like, your stuff is great too, but that's what kind of compliment? Like, why would you say that? I've had some weird interactions like that. But for the most part, people are like excited to see crochet and excited to see things more than just like stuffed animals. So yeah. Okay, now that I got that little bit of a rant out of the way, I am now like rambling. I can't really think of anything else to add that's like of substance to this video. So I will end it here. I'll stop rambling. But overall, I love doing markets. They're fun, they are stressful, but they're fun and they're a great way to try to make just like a little bit of extra pocket money. I sadly can't make it like, hey, I'm trying to make this my full-time job situation right now, especially since I don't drive. It makes it a lot more difficult, but it's like I'm making a little bit of extra money, maybe, after all the fees. Maybe I should mention real quick, I mean, this is a normal vendor thing. I have Square to accept card payment, and then I also accept cash, and then Cash App and Venmo. Those are normal things to have for your booth. I try to see if I can get people to pay with cash. If not, however they want to pay, I try to make it as flexible as I can. Oh, I didn't even mention this. You need a sign with your name, because for a while I didn't have that and people had no clue who I was. And right now I got like a little picture frame of my name. Have your Instagram be the first one. I have my link tree there, but have your Instagram be your first QR code, and then like Venmo and Cash App be your other two QR codes, but like have some sort of signage with your name so people know who you are. So yes. All right, I'm done. I need to stop cut myself off now, because if I don't, I'm going to ramble on for a while longer about like whatever pops into my head. So thank you for watching. I hope you take care. Bye.